Hello and welcome to My Arts and Crafts. I'm Libby Hoffmeister, and today I'm going to be sharing more color palette cards. Today we are going to focus on complementary and analogous colors. So I'm going to start here. This is our first complementary color palette. Complementary color palettes are colors that are directly across from each other on the color wheel. I am stretching this rule a little bit here because this is more of a peachy colored cardstock versus a red or a pink. The complementary color to red is green. So here I have chosen a peachy color of cardstock, kind of a little bit more pink. So it still falls in the complementary color palette that I'm going for. And I think it looks really appealing to the eye. Complementary color palettes typically have high contrast, so you can see that between the pink and the green, there is a lot of contrast there. So I'm using two lighter colors of peach cardstock and then a darker, very vibrant green that really play well together. I find having two lighter colors and then a nice dark bold color works really, really well for this whole process. And then I also like adding a metallic cardstock. So here you saw another complementary color palette, which included that one included some two lighter teals and then a nice bright orange. And so those blue and orange fall along the color palette. I did change it to be more blue-green, but it's still the same idea. And then I have two lighter purples and a nice vibrant yellow, which is another complementary color palette there. And then for my analogous color palettes, those are the ones on the color palette that fall right next to each other. So here I'm using kind of a red violet, a blue violet, a violet, and a blue. And these ones all work together really, really well. And so they are analogous color palettes. They don't necessarily have high contrast, but they blend really nicely together. Here you can see I have some like greens and blues here. Those are really close on the color palette and will blend really nicely. If you are opposite on the color palette, they will mix and create brown when you are blending them together, so I wouldn't suggest that for complementary color palettes, but analogous color palettes work really, really well. Next, I'm cutting up a few pieces of white cardstock. I'm trimming them about 1.5 inches, and it's best if it's a little bit of thinner cardstock. You could even use like a printer paper for this. I'm just using something that I can just hold all of the strips that I cut onto. So you saw me cut just a bunch of strips out of the different color palettes, and then I am going to add them to these pieces of cardstock so I can play with design later. I wanted to just have a good base that I could kind of play with. So here you can see me, I'm adding the different strips on there. And when you are cutting the strips, make sure to cut them of varying different sizes because it creates a little bit more interest in the strips. I think strips are a really, really great way to play with color. And so I think this was a really, really fun way to introduce these complementary and analogous color palettes through strips. I think strips are a really, really fun way to introduce a bunch of different colors and have a fun color palette. And I think these cards are really, really fun. You probably saw this color palette in another video, and I loved it so much, which kind of inspired this design or this color palette I meant. And so I wanted to do more complementary color palettes because I really, really liked how this one looked. So I decided to do more. And so that's what I'm sharing with you today. And then I also decided why not add analogous color palettes as another fun different thing to do. That's what I have done here. I'm just adding all of the strips onto these pieces of cardstock, and I will just trim off the excess. It definitely doesn't have to be perfect because these will hang off the edge of your card, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just kind of go with whatever you have got, and I'm just alternating between the colors. I am doing a pattern with the colors because I find I like how that looks, but you could totally pick them at random and do them more random. I just like the pattern, so that's what I'm doing, but I'm making sure to mix up the width of each of the strips so that it gives a little bit more interest to the cards. And yeah, and then yeah, I will just continue adding all of the strips to the cards. I did about 3 of each for the complementary colors, so I'll have 3 little paper strips of each of these complementary colors. And then I did 2 of the analogous colors, so I have 2 of each of the analogous color palettes I had chosen. And yeah, that's pretty much the basics for this color palette and the process here. I thought this was really fun and just something different that I typically don't do on this channel, and I haven't done a color palette cards video in a while, so I decided I'd share that today. And I think these are some really fun color palettes that often get overlooked. But I think complementary color palettes can be really pretty and bold and beautiful color palettes, so I wanted to share them here today. And I think when using a color palette, it can open a lot of worlds to a bunch of different color palettes and some really beautiful color palettes. So I wanted to share kind of the color wheel and all the things that it can help you do. So I think complementary and analogous color palettes are a really fun way to look at your inks or your cardstocks. I'm using cardstocks here today, but inks are a very great option as well. For this, I just would be careful if you are blending with complementary color palettes. Keep them a little bit separated, but that's a really great option as well. And yeah, I think these are a really fun way to use some of your color palette or some of your products that you have in your craft room. You could even play into stamps or dies or anything that you have in your stash and just play with that. I also really liked the addition of some metallic cardstock within my complementary color palettes. I felt that it helped kind of break the clashingness of the complementary colors. It kind of helped bring them together a little bit more. I think they would have been fine without the metallic cardstock, but I think the metallic cardstock really added a lot. Depending on which colors that you use would depend on what metallic cardstock you would choose to use. I say that it's typically the cooler colors are lean more to look better with a silver cardstock, while the warmer colors look better with a gold cardstock. But you can play with the different combinations you have, because typically one is a warm color and one is a cool color. So I just think whatever looks best to your eye and just play with a bunch of these different options today. Then I'm going to just lay all of the strips onto an A2 size white note card. This is 5.5 by 4.25 inches, which will create a US A2 size card. And then I'm just playing with the arrangement of the strips at some diagonals. I actually saw a similar idea on Ralph Tyndall Designs YouTube channel. I will link the video in the upper right corner as well as in the description box below if you want to check that out. But I thought it was a really fun design, and I thought it was a fun way to just play with these color palettes without having to think about the design a lot. I really wanted the colors to be the focal point here. You could of course add a stamped image or a die to become the focal point and have this fun design be the background. And I think that would be another fun way to use this card design or these colors. I just wanted the colors to be my focal point and this fun pattern to also play as a focal point. So I have added these strips at different angles onto the front of the card base, and then I will just cut off the extra so that it will fit onto the surface of an A2 size card. And that will pretty much finish off the design for these cards. For the analogous cards, I did something a little bit different because I only had 2 strips, and I think this is another fun design element. to your card that could also be used as a background for like a stamped image or a die cut or whatever you have. I think that would be another great option to bring the focal point to the center. As you'll see, it will kind of create a center point with the design. I'm kind of crisscrossing them so it creates sort of an X at the kind of center top of my panel. And this would be a really great opportunity to have a stamped image or a die cut in the center. But I really wanted the color palette and the pattern and design to really shine here. I didn't want to put anything over it today. So this is what I'm working with for today's project. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. I will do the same thing with this blue-green color combination. My analogous color combination, I will just align them so that they are overlapping in an X configuration. And I thought this was another fun way to arrange your strips. You could obviously play around with it more as well. Or if you have another design idea in mind, you can adhere the strips directly to the front of the card base. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, so I wanted to have the freedom to be able to move the strips around. So I added them to some white cardstock before adding them to my card base. Next, to finish off these cards, I'm just going to add some sentiments. I'm using the mini everyday sentiments for the tiny sentiment there. It's foiled in matte gold cardstock. And this really matches the brushed gold kind of cardstock I had. And then I'm also using Yana's Layered Script Sentiments. That's the birthday one that you see there. And then I also have the must-haves foil plate and die set for these kind of smaller sentiments there that you see at the top. And these ones created a really, really fun, like, I think they added a little bit to the card, but still allowed the background to be the focal point. And then for the ones with the X's over the top, or the X's kind of the analogous color palettes, I used the mini everyday sentiments again. I just foiled them in matte silver cardstock. And then I'm using Altenew Sweet Sentiments die set, and I have cut that out of matte gold cardstock as well as some white cardstock for the shadow. And this creates a really nice focal point and still allows the background to be the star of the show here. So yeah, that will pretty much finish off the cards. I'm just going to add a little white heart underneath each of the sentiments, and that will finish off all of these cards. I think these were a really, really fun design, something a little bit different than I typically do on this channel, and it's definitely out of the color palettes that I normally use. So I think this is a great, that this is a great opportunity to share some of those unique color palettes, and I really am in love with some of these color palettes, and I hope to use them again in a future video and really utilize these different color palettes, because I think I typically stick to the same color palettes over and over, so I wanted to change it up and get something a little bit different here. And I think that's definitely what happened with these cards, and I think they are very, very beautiful and just kind of fun and abstract cards from what I typically do. So yeah, that will finish off the card project for today, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and come back next week for a new video. If you are interested in any of the supplies I used today, check the description box below. For more inspiration, please consider liking and subscribing, and for even more inspiration, check out my Instagram and Pinterest accounts at My Arts and Crafts. Thank you so much again. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.